my favorite one. Okay, make it very simple. For a couple of new faces here, I'd just like to introduce today to these panelists. Senior manager from Microsoft Mobile Division, Windows Phone, Robert Ju, the same last name as my wife's. So I always remember that. Let's welcome Robert. And Karl Weaver, the well-known guy here in Seattle who can speak both English and Chinese fluently. Ni hao. Yeah, Karl Weaver from Newport Technologies, and he's the expert on the mobile payment, NFC, all the greatest stuff on cell phone. And he's been doing smartphone for 20 plus years. I remember that when I first started to talk about smartphone, and Karl and I actually were the first two guys starting to pitch smartphone to the Seattle community.
10 years ago.
10 years ago, okay, yeah. So welcome, Karl. Dong, I don't need to introduce him again. He's my good old friend. And Landong Wei, right? Wei Landong, right? Wei Landong from Intel, and he's a senior manager there working on tablet.
Yeah, Windows tablet.
Windows tablet software. And the other two VIPs, you guys already know them. So what I want to do today is to focus on mobile ecosystem. Okay, so I try to use Dr. Zhen's diagram here. The whole mobile ecosystem is actually very simple. There are only three things, right? The device, the network, and then the content and applications in the back end. So these guys here represent the mobile ecosystem beautifully. We got application and content guy spearheaded by Aaron, right? And then we got the network guy, Dong Shen, representing network, and then we got the device section. We got three guys that we are focusing on device area. So you have Samsung kind of leading the whole thing about device, and then inside the device, a lot of things happen, right? You got the operating systems, and you got different chips. So Robert and the Lando's working on the software below that mobile operating system. And then you have the Robert kind of serve as a customer of Lando working on the Windows OS piece of it. So we've got a whole ecosystem, mobile ecosystem covered. I know that you guys talked about all the futuristic stuff and next big things in your area. I got totally pumped up and fired up. Now I want to bring you guys back to a reality. I want to talk about, what's the biggest pain point in your own area. Maybe we should start with Aaron from the application and content side of and try to talk about what's the current biggest pain point in your area, the way you see it.
But it's interesting. I think the biggest pain point that I see in the industry as a whole is massive consolidation of profits to a relatively small number of players. It's I think the gentleman from ZTE talked, right? Finding alternate monetization models so that we can build bigger, better services for people to get all the stuff they want on their devices, even as they expect that device to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And those are directly opposed. We want cooler stuff on our phone, but we don't want to pay less money for it.
Yeah.
And so it squeezes the ecosystem, it squeezes the network infrastructure and how much you can invest in it, it squeezes the application infrastructure, it squeezes what you put in those phones. And I think that's just an incredibly interesting dynamic. And I don't have a solution for it. Otherwise, I'd be much richer than I am now. But I think it's just incredibly interesting. And I'm really wondering. I think you talked about that. Who's the next person to come into this space?
Right.
What business model are they going to bring that disrupts the current hegemony of content?
That's a great way of putting it. So let's move on to network. Dong, I know that every year you talk talk about the latest network technology and 4G this year, and next year, a couple of years will be 5G. I want to bring it back to current landscape. What is the biggest pain point from a network perspective, from a customer, business customer perspective? What are their pain points and how you can address those?
Yeah, actually, there's so many things in the network side, but very importantly, it's visible to everybody is the smartphone. You know the smartphone has so many capabilities, and there's a huge data consumer, and so if you look at a smartphone and if you have a way to see how much data you consume, you know is in the past the network never had such kind of pressure from the data application, but now it's never network service providers or infrastructure equipment vendors, and never had such kind of the pressure before. Then how to support all these kind of the customer consumer requirement, and you have smartphone, but all the service actually comes from the infrastructure, and basically we need to have provide more capacity, a lot of data capacity, provide faster service, quick response. And so you see some mobile phone, you got a fast processors, but this work on their own is fine. But if you interact with network, the network performance will be very critical. So we have to provide huge capacity, quick response, and support all kinds of different applications. And this application is not only in the mobile phone, it's also in the core network. So that's a pressure for us, and we have to find out a way, more intelligent way, to increase our capability to support customers, also the way to adapt to this trend without a lot of the reinvestment. You can save the service providers, both CapEx and OpEx.
Yeah, that's a very good answer to my question. As a matter of fact, I can speak from a T-Mobile point of view. Data traffic, the T-Mobile network data traffic, I would say 60% or 70% driven by three big guys, on who they are: Facebook, Google, and Yahoo. And we actually have the dedicated server network to support those guys to be able to detect the traffic coming from Facebook or from Google or from Yahoo. And another one is Microsoft too. I'm sorry about that. And then we have the dedicated servers and network portion supporting that one. Yeah, that's the way that we try to deal with the ever-increasing data demand. Thank you, Dominic, for that. And then moving on to device, Samsung, Dr. Jen, what's the biggest pain point you see at this point that people have with their device?
I think from Samsung's perspective, we see challenges in short term and long term. In the short term, we have huge challenges in finding out the innovations and trying to enable innovation on our new devices. Because every year we have flagship devices, the Galaxy S series and the Galaxy Note devices. We have been working very hard to kind of get some new features, new functionalities into the devices so we can sell next year. That's a short-term challenge. Long-term, I think Samsung is looking to new markets. As I shared my view in the presentation, we're looking into some new areas like wearable computing devices and also smart cars, smart home, this kind of new segments, and to really try to find some new revenue sources. That's in the long term.
Exciting stuff, yeah. I know that Samsung keep looking for new stuff and try to sell T-Mobile all kinds of crazy new ideas. Sometimes the carrier said, no, this is totally wrong. and they ended up wasting all the money. And that's why they always has a job in R&D. They need to go back and do some more research and development and come back again, right? You have to be persistent and keep coming back until you find something that you can sell and make tons of money out of it. For instance, Galaxy. Okay, so let's move on to Karl, I know that you're doing a lot of NFC stuff and the mobile payment.
Right.
What's the pain point?
Right, this company is called Gemalto. It's the digital leader in digital security. 5 years ago, I went to China for Gemalto in Beijing to push contactless mobile NFC technology to the whole handset ecosystem in China and Taiwan. That's where all the mobile devices are made, designed, and basically the issue here is that in North America, NFC, with contactless mobile NFC or near-field communications, to most Americans means no functional clue. They don't know what it is. And to link NFC with the whole concept of making a payment, taking your cell phone and making a mobile payment at the point of sale, it's an alien concept in the United States. But it is not an alien concept in most of the world, because most of the world is using smart card technology. It's using contactless mobile NFC for multiple applications. It isn't just about payment. It's about loyalty, ticketing, couponing, access control, even transportation. Your transportation card is actually a form of NFC. But the interesting thing is, your company is involved in this, is that ISIS, which is the combination of AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon, are about to launch in the United States a nationwide mobile payment network, which will be very, very critical for Americans and people living in this country to know how to take a smartphone and make a mobile payment, link that to the SWP NFC SIM card from Gemalto and others, and then make a mobile payment, use a mobile wallet to store that from the credentials into the SIM card. The key is security. The SIM card provides 100% security. The operators know that. That's why they dedicated this ISIS organization. The pressure point or the pain point is that in the United States, it's the last major country in the world that has no idea about mobile NFC. Let's be honest, how many of you know what mobile NFC is? Who knows what mobile NFC is? Contactless mobile NFC. Oh my goodness. So that is the pain point. However, ISIS at the end of this month, am I correct? ISIS is about to launch contactless mobile NFC payment with a mobile wallet, and your handsets will be utilizing it. Your handsets, I worked with your company to do that. I work with your company, I work with most of these companies to provide contactless mobile NFC. So payment on your smartphone is going to be a reality. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. And a lot of people ask me, why AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile got together? They are all competitors. Why do they get together and form a joint partnership called ISIS, spelled as IS, as in Sandy, ISIS? And the reason behind that is you need to have the scale in order to support mobile payment. Just give an example. If McDonald's accepts Visa, but KFC doesn't, and the Starbucks coffee doesn't, then people will stop to use Visa card, right? You put yourself into consumer shoes. You want to be sure that when you use that ISIS wallet, no matter where you go to, you want the retail outlet to accept the ISIS wallet. So that's the reason why all these competitors, they got together and form a joint partnership. It's not against the law at all. It's not the big guys forming a joint partnership trying to dominate the market. It's because of the scale. Okay. So I think that there's a huge, huge future there, Karl. And then next year when I invite you back here, hopefully you won't say that America is the last country that's doing it. Mobile payment. We are going to be leading the world. Okay?
Yes.
Yes. So there's a lot of exciting things going on within a mobile device. Wei, I know that you been working really hard on the tablets software of Intel. And Intel and Qualcomm, those chips companies, they actually driving the whole mobile phone innovation at the deepest level, at the lowest level, the chips level, right? So can you share a little bit what you see, what kind of work you're doing, and maybe what you see as a pain point?
Yeah, so for Intel, Intel itself agrees it's behind on mobile, and Qualcomm has take advantage of the mobile smartphone years. So now Intel is trying to catch up, and Dr. Pedro said like the next big thing, what Intel is trying to do is build like a better CPU, the hardware perspective to enable all these things to come true. So what Intel is doing is heavily invest in the mobile side, and by producing more powerful CPU chips, and but at the same time consume less battery power. And I think right now, like I'm in the tablet team and work with Microsoft closely to deliver Windows tablet. Last year we shipped Cloud 2. Cloud 2 is only like 32 nanometer, only 2 core CPU. But this year the Bellevue just shipped like with Windows 8.1 this week. It's already 4 core, and it's like 22 nanometer. The next tablet coming next year is only 14 nanometer. So the computing power is much better than before, but also the battery power consumption is much less than before. And also another thing like Intel also realizes the smartphone will have a lot of choices, but to get consumers' attention and give them incentive to switch to new phones, new tablets every year. So we have to have better services and more innovative killer applications. So for example, one thing Intel is work with industry to promote called perceptive computing. So basically it's integrate more sensors and provide SDK so that we can mix the device to be able to see or hear or feel the human being, like the user. And a good example is in my tablet sleeping, and I pick it up, and the device should sense, oh, you want to use it. It should automatically power up, and then the camera should turn on automatically, and then the camera do a facial recognition and recognize, okay, you are registered user on this tablet, and will automatically log you in. Then you can start use voice recognition, sending emails, whatever. So basically, Intel is trying to build its position not from scratch, but compete with Qualcomm to enable all these things to become reality tomorrow.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Randall. I know that you work with Microsoft closely and all the stuff that you talked about. I wanted to ask Robert, what he's saying, is it true? Did he actually work with you?
Yeah, we work
Okay, all right, good. So Robert, so tell me, we talked about the local software company. The first one that popping out is always Microsoft, right? Microsoft had been engaging in mobile space for a long time. I know that in late 90s, Microsoft started to work on mobile stuff, mobile Windows, all that thing. What's the big ingredient thing that Microsoft is doing in the mobile space, and what's the Microsoft's view on the pain point of the mobile customers?
Very good question. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
So I'm working the Windows Phone operating system, and then I think in the many years I've been Microsoft 14, 16 years around that time. Yeah. So every area in Microsoft division, and probably Xbox, other place as well. So I feel like in the beginning, we have the mainframe, we have the DEC PDP, and then we come have a desktop OS. Every OS, we are talking about operating system on the desktop. Then now every pocket have a mobile OS. Then I'm thinking in the point of view in the future, the big money maker like Pei and many speakers mentioned about what in the future. I feel the next wave after mobile OS come out will be a wearable OS. That Pei in one of the slides they mentioned about mobile health. I cannot agree more than that, because now we are seeing the Fitbit, people join to a group and then to a hiking group and then say how they count my heartbeat, how many steps I walk. Those OS is kind of every body parts will have an OS, not just every pocket. So and then there will be, and then Samsung also developed the flexible display. You can bend it. In the future, probably every wallet you can have a display panel and an OS there. and you can see your ring. You have display ring, and you can show your stock, and then show weather, show everything. So I can feel like the next. I hope Microsoft were leading this next after mobile OS were leading that efforts, that wave to catch up this the wave, because everything they become smaller, lightweight OS. And then they empower people to do a lot of social networking, to do an ecosystem, global. You can get all this cloud, talk with cloud, talk with the data center, and talk with the kind of like a local, your test server as well, everything. But the wearable OS, I think everybody you can. I saw some people's women's earring. They have OS operating system there, and then some, and there, something like They can. The Google has glass and many places, and then you can say your belt. You could have a operating system there to measure how much you eat today. You can lose weight. I can tell you all the stuff. I can think. Because in the future, the mobile health, what he mentioned, that I totally agree. Because in the future, the mobile will get more information, and then we can get educated and then to improve our person's life. Like I play tennis, I saw there's an operating system in my racket. When I train that, and then they give me feedback, and then give me feedback. Say, oh, what's the speed? What's the spin? What's the ball I can play? So those stuff, I feel like. We are going into a more exciting time, and then with this hardware, we have so many hardware senior manager here to do the job, then we can get more of work done there. That's what I'm vision.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Oh my God, we can be totally excited about this new technology. Thank you so much. I want to turn the podium to the audience here, and do you guys have any questions for the panel?
Karl, you just mentioned something that reminds me of a simple question. We've been talking about the ISIS. There still seems to be, whether it's some party question really for the panel, but it still seems to be a perception, maybe it's a misperception, of lack of security of mobile devices. Whether it's content on the cloud, whether it's the devices themselves, whether it's the apps working, the software working there. Not so much about the hackers. I think it's the fact that if you log in the 15 different apps and you remain logged in, because that's the default, all these apps are sharing information. So there creates that. So the question is the perception I have false or true? And unlike the PCs, Microsoft and Dell, really for a long time, a lot of collaboration on security with the security providers. You don't seem to have that in the mobile space.
No.
You don't seem to have that collaboration.
You have
and so,
right.
Where's the problem and how can we solve it?
I'll tell you where the problem is, because in Gemalto, I also worked with Gemalto's sister company called Trusted Logic Mobility, which spun out to Trustonic, a three-way JV between your competitor, ARM, Gemalto, and G&D. Here's the whole problem. An open operating system can be hacked in a heartbeat by an operator. You may have this protection on the infrastructure side, but you don't have protection on the mobile device side, because a hacker has much more sophisticated wireless tools to infiltrate the smartphone. Here's how they do it. They basically go and they embed code. And by the way, all these advertisers in various countries who will remain nameless, many advertisers in various countries use third-party apps developers to develop advertising that gets embedded into a legitimate application. When you go on that, and then they upload it to an online store, when you download that app, you do not know if you're downloading a completely legitimate app, because it's embedded with code. It could be malware, it could be a Trojan, and man in the middle. There are many different types of malicious code out there that cause huge problems on the security of these mobile devices. Fortunately, one of the companies that I was promoting the technology to the handset ecosystem is called Trustonic. And Trustonic means essentially trust in the IC. And you know about that because Intel is doing something similar. You bought McAfee. The key issue here is that the technology exists to protect sensitive applications on a mobile device by taking the sensitive application, porting it with an API into a firewall environment in the mobile applications processor chip. When it's in the chip, you can't hack it. You cannot hack a mobile applications processor chip, essentially the CPU in your computer. So there is technology to stop it. It's not cheap, it's expensive. It's going to happen because operators and banks around the world need to know that they can trust the mobile payment. The great thing is that the technology is there, the awareness is not there, and hence it's another thing that I'm promoting. Not only contactless mobile NFC and payment, but embedded mobile device security based on the mobile applications processor chip.
So one thing I can tell is like Intel just like shipped the second generation tablet, which is called Bellevue, and different OEM will have different name. We actually have the security like AFC included. What Intel does is it's a dedicated chip, and the chip connect with like the software CPU is with a dedicated bus. And we guarantee the firmware side, also as the software stack side, it's encrypted, and it's not easy for the normal like hacker, whatever you use hardware like on a device or like software over the air, eavesdrop, whatever. It makes it very difficult. And right now, like there are some OEMs, since Intel only provides capability, and they have like the hardware capability built on the platform already, and also provided the software SDK, and you can use the software stack, interact with the firmware, and make like a secure transaction from NFC. And I know like some OEM, they provided some application using this capability. And again, just like Karl said, it's awareness. A lot of OEMs they don't have any plan yet, and I think like give it another 2 years, I would see like AFC and would gain like more momentum.
Another key point is though, Samsung is very well aware of this technology, and Gemalto has been working with Samsung for the protection of high-definition video content, because Netflix and Google want to go into China and sell high-definition video content. But Hollywood says to them, you must have protection of high-definition video content on your tablet, smartphone, and basically it's called a trusted execution environment. This technology is from Trustonic, originally a 100% Gemalto company, now spun off to a three-way, interesting JV, much like ISIS. Because everybody realizes that security is very, very critical. But the key is that when you create a firewall environment in the chip, hackers cannot get to it because it's digitally encrypted, cryptographic keys, secure storage, and a unique UI experience can be had. But it costs money. Security is the most important return on investment that nobody wants to pay for because it's expensive.
Any other questions? I guess probably both of you are hungry right now. It's lunchtime. So I want to thank the panelists again for wonderful comments. Here in this mobile technology section, thank you so much for your participation. If you have any more questions, you can always ask these guys because they probably don't feel that hungry. All right, thanks. We got excited by technology here.
Yeah.